Thanksgiving Eve, 1971. A mysterious figure behind dark sunglasses carries a briefcase aboard Northwest Orient Flight 305, a domestic hop from Portland, Oregon to here, Seattle, Washington, home of Boeing and the inspiring Museum of Flight. The name on his ticket, Dan Kuper. An unassuming-looking man, later described as in his mid-40s and about 5 foot 10 inches tall. He takes his seat in 18E. Upon takeoff, he informs the flight attendant that his briefcase contains a bomb. Once back on the ground in Seattle, Kuper agrees to release the passengers in exchange for $200,000, 4 parachutes, and a promise of safe passage to Mexico. Back in the air, the pilots inform Kuper they'll need to stop in Reno to refuel. But before they can get there, a light goes off in the cockpit indicating that a door has been opened. You see, DB Kuper chose the Boeing 727 for a reason: its unique aft staircase. Jumping from the side door of a commercial jet could kill a skydiver, but Kuper simply had to walk out the back. Outside, a storm is raging, and somewhere in the darkness above the Pacific Northwest, Kuper jumps. And that's where the mystery deepens, because by the time the plane lands in Reno, both the hijacker and the money have vanished. Who are you? Over the years, there have been countless suspects fitted for Kuper's shades. Marvel fans even saw Tom Hiddleston's Loki take credit for the crime. Today, though, I'm trying to answer the $200,000 question, who is DB Kuper, by enlisting the A-team of Kuper researchers. Mark Meltzer, criminal defense attorney with over 50 years of skydiving experience, a top authority on Kuper's jump. Joe Koenig, lead investigator in the Jimmy Hoffa case, 26-year veteran of the Michigan State Police. And Bruce Smith, veteran sleuth and author of DB Kuper and the FBI. Oh, and me. I'm here too. All right, guys, I got a lot of questions.
We got answers.
I hope so. Let's start with this. Most books that I've read about DB Kuper have a suspect. Mark, I know you're an attorney. Does it seem strange to you how many potential suspects there are in this case?
It's very unusual. The FBI has said there have been hundreds of confessions.
Right, you don't normally have hundreds of guys confessing to the crime.
Correct.
Right. Got to remember, the DB Kuper skyjacking was innovative. No one else had ever done it. In fact, skydivers the next day were saying, why didn't I think of that?
Right, exactly. Yeah. So, okay, let's start where the FBI started.
The primary witness to the skyjacking is the flight attendant who sat next to DB Kuper.
Tina.
That's Tina Mucklow.
Right.
And she and the FBI start to come up with a sketch. And this was the first sketch.
Okay.
However, over the next year, a lot of other people came forward, like passengers. And so they came up with a different composite sketch.
Are they accurate? Is eyewitness testimony for composite sketches really valuable?
I never found it to be all that valuable. So much depends on the eyewitness's ability to recall an image.
Right. So let's wipe the slate here. Let's talk about actual suspects. Who are some of the people that really rose to the top and were the greatest hits in this case?
Well, the very first guy was Ted Mayfield, and people were already calling the FBI while the plane was still in the air and Kuper hadn't even jumped yet, saying, your guy is Ted Mayfield.
Why? Why were people so
Because
into
he
him?
ran a corrupt operation as a skydiver, and,
okay.
and people ended up dying there.
Wow.
From bad training, bad equipment. He even stole an airplane.
So did Ted Mayfield hold up as a suspect?
No, he didn't. He was immediately ruled out, and I think correctly so, because he was far too short. He did not meet the height requirements of Kuper. He was way below it.
Okay, so we get rid of Ted Mayfield. Who else?
Within a few days of the crime, the FBI received a tip that they should investigate Sheridan Peterson.
Sheridan Peterson, okay. Who's he?
Sheridan Peterson was a very experienced skydiver. He was an instructor. And he worked at Boeing in technical documentation.
Right. Okay, so this guy's looking pretty good.
He is.
What's wrong with him?
His alibi is that he was living in a mud hut in Nepal at the time.
Well, that's a pretty big problem.
Yeah, I don't think he's Kuper.
Okay. In the end, the FBI maintains that none of these men were Kuper, and that he most likely died in his leap from the plane. The men at this table might respectfully disagree. Who's a guy who could be Kuper?
As far as capabilities go, Robert Rackstraw had every skill needed. Robert Rackstraw, he was an Army helicopter pilot and was an experienced halo parachutist. That means high altitude, low opening.
Joe, do you think Rackstraw could be Kuper?
I don't think so. He was too young.
How old was he?
29.
Oh, I mean, really young. But he had the capability.
Rackstraw had every skill needed, but nobody can put him on the plane. And in fact, the flight attendant, Tina Mucklow, said no when she was shown his picture. So you can't equate capability with culpability.
Right. And what about you, Joe? Who do you think D.B. Kuper is?
I know who D.B. Kuper is. It's this young man.
Walter Recca.
Correct.
This is D.B. Kuper.
He's the one.
Okay. Tell me, who is Walter Recca?
Walter Recca was a paratrooper. He was in the Air Force Reserve's Sea and Rescue Squad.
And I go to my parachute expert here. This guy knew how to jump?
He was a U.S. Air Force Reserve para-rescue jumper. They're called PJs. He absolutely had the skills. They know everything. They know night jumps, water jumps, combat rescue. I've been jumping for 53 years. I don't have 1/100th of the skills that Recca had.
Okay, so he knew how to jump.
And he's D.B. Kuper because of his confession, which was very detailed.
After he jumped from the 727, Recca is said to have landed in the town of Cle Elum, Washington. But don't take my word for it. Here's an excerpt of Walter Recca's confession, recorded by a close friend of his shortly before his death in 2014.
I hit a tree first. The only dead tree in the forest that I happened to get to it. I mean, my leg broke. Because I could feel it swelling up. Just gathered it all up right there and left it there with the broken trees. Threw a few branches on top of it. And I could see in the distance right there traffic. Took the raincoat off, put the money in the raincoat, like a bundle.
Does anybody see this guy walking in the rain along this road?
Yes.
Really? One witness, a local truck driver, reports passing Recca on the road on his way to a nearby diner. The man is walking in the rain in a suit. Shortly after, he limps into the diner and asks for change to use the phone. Here's Walter Recca again.
I give it to the guy with the dump truck, the telephone. I remember him good too, a cowboy hat. He gave him the directions. Because I don't know where I was. It was done and I lived through it.
I've evaluated those tapes to determine truthfulness.
That's your area of expertise.
Exactly. He was being truthful.
You're convinced.
I am.
I don't want to start a fight here. What do you think? Could it be Recca?
The place where he landed is over 100 miles from where this aircraft was flying.
It is also true that there is no actual record of where that plane flew, right?
There was a record. They didn't preserve
They
it.
didn't preserve it.
This raises another question. If you're going to make up a story about being D.B. Kuper, why place yourself 100 miles from there? There's something very puzzling about the Recca case. I can't figure it out.
I agree with Joe. Walter Recca landed in Cle Elum, Washington, the night in question, and was soaking to the skin by the rain.
You buy that?
I buy that absolutely. So there's two guys jumping out of airplanes wearing business suits the night before Thanksgiving in 1971.
That's impossible. I'd rather have you say it never happened. There was no guy walking down the road. But if you're telling me that there was a guy in a business suit on that night walking down the road, then how could he not be D.B. Kuper?
I think the Walter Recca story opens up a huge story. And the story is, what the hell was Walter Recca doing in Cle Elum that night?
This is a relatively new suspect, landed in an unsearched area, and hopefully, with your help, we'll find some evidence to seal this case.
If you think that sounds like a challenge, well, it does to me, too. Looks like Joe and I are going to Cle Elum. Joe travels ahead to assemble his team of Kuper fanatics, leaving me to drive the 85 miles solo. I arrive where the Tinoe Junction Cafe once stood and rejoin Joe Koenig. How are you, man?
Good, Josh. How are you?
Good, good to see you.
Good, good.
What do you think of my car?
I love it. A Mini Cooper.
Exactly. I'll go a long way for a bad joke, Joe. This is for me?
Yeah.
Thank
yeah,
you, sir.
Yeah.
And you've got an army of people out here.
We do. We got a bunch of volunteers from the Cle Elum area and a professional metal detectorist.
So we are in the spot.
This is the spot.
Should we go find D.B. Cooper's parachute?
Let's do it.
Let's go. Joe believes that Cooper must have landed near where the tree line is today, an area that was deep in the woods in 1971. The years may have changed the landscape, but the buckles, fasteners, and other metallic pieces of Cooper's parachute can't hide from a metal detector. Our team is fanned out across the field and into the trees. This is the largest search ever made here for evidence in the Cooper case. And it may be about to pay off. Got something? What do we got over here?
It's in this vicinity.
Let's get a little deeper here. Oh, we got metal here. See rust down here. Here we go, look. See how it's curved?
Yeah.
Big chunk of metal.
What you got?
Oh, yeah,
Look at that. Is it a drum lid?
Yeah.
So, okay, somebody at some point buried a bunch of drums back here.
Yeah.
Probably not D.B. Cooper.
Probably not.
Okay, moving on. The team continues metal detecting, while the property's owner, Wayne Willett, brings us back into the forest in search of any sign of our suspect. Is this the underside of a tree? These are all roots. Now, in terms of this tree from the Cooper story, Rekka, when he parachuted in here, he said that he hit a dead tree, right?
Yeah, he said the only dead tree in the woods.
So this is obviously a big dead tree, although I wouldn't say it's been dead for that long. How long have you been on this property?
We moved out here in about 72.
So a year after the Cooper jump.
Yes.
So was there a big old dead tree here at that time?
There was. It was right in here somewhere.
Okay, well, maybe we come across it.
Yeah?
Yeah? Let's keep looking. Nobody said it was gonna be easy. As far as landmarks go, the remains of a 50-year-old dead tree in the forest don't exactly stick out, and these woods aren't exactly a walk in the park. Good, good, good. Oh, careful, 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 careful! Oh!
There I go. Okay.
Come here. I rush to his aid, but as a retired cop,
I hit my head on that thing.
Joe is one tough mother, and he bounces back quickly. You all right?
Yeah, yeah.
You didn't feel a parachute down there, did you?
I didn't.
Come on, let's get you dried off. After changing into dry clothes, he brings me to meet one of the volunteers who's helping us today. A man who's driven by this area once before, on November 24th, 1971. That's right, Jeff Oshaditz is the key eyewitness from Walter Rekka's story. Hey, nice to meet you.
Nice
How
to
are
meet you. Good.
Wow, you're the guy who saw Rekka that night out on the road.
Right. I can picture it just like it happened yesterday.
So I want to hear this from your lips. You're driving this truck, and what do you see out the window?
I see a man standing on the side of the road with a black suit, white shirt, soaking wet.
And he's not wearing his raincoat.
No, it's rolled up under his arm.
Crazy.
I thought this guy's French fry short of a Happy Meal.
So you drive past him, you go to the diner.
He come walking in. He says to me, "Kid, where am I?" And I said, "You're about 4 miles east of Cle Elum." And he says, "If I make a phone call, can you tell this friend of mine how to get here to pick me up?" He hands me the phone. I talk to the guy. I said, "Where are you coming from?"
You might have inadvertently helped Cooper get out of town that night. You're lucky Joe doesn't arrest you.
Yeah.
I'm still looking for the FBI or see how you show up.
This is it, sir. This is a sting. What's so amazing about you, you're a corroborating witness, and that's something that almost no other Cooper suspect has. But he's not the only witness on which Joe's case relies. He then takes me to meet Rekka's niece, Lisa Story, who was with Rekka shortly before his death in 2014. Did he ever confess to you?
Yes.
He did?
In 2013, he asked me to go grab this envelope and pull out this letter, and he wanted to sign it and have it notarized.
The last testament of Walter R. Pekka Jr., because that was his birth name?
Right.
Names hereafter, Walter R. Rekka and D.B. Kuper. Wow. This is a full confession.
Yes.
The deathbed confession letter left Lisa convinced that her uncle was Kuper. But that's not the only disturbing thing she learned about Walter. In the years after the skyjacking, he has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different passports.
Mm-hmm.
He has a British passport.
Yes.
With his photo under the name Frank Drinkle.
Yep.
Look at this. He's in Saudi. He's in Indonesia. He's in Saudi again. He's got foreign service IDs. And what's this? This is a KGB?
Yeah.
This is a Soviet KGB ID.
Yes. He spoke Russian, Polish,
And he spoke Russian.
He did.
What is he doing with a Soviet ID?
I think that was cover in case he was caught. I think he was working freelance for the CIA as a mercenary and undercover behind the Iron Curtain.
Like, forget the skyjacking. This guy is a true man of mystery.
Yes.
Right.
Wow. Anywhere in here does he write down where he stashed his parachute and the rest of that money, or is that in here? Is that in here that you found yet?
I wish I had asked him.